not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Church, again, we would just like to welcome you. Thank you all for being here. Again, like I said last week, now's when we get to worship our God. Now's when we get to praise our God. We get to give it all up. And this song in particular, we are children of God. We are free. He is our Father. We're in His house right now. And that's such an amazing, powerful thing, and please don't take it for granted. I know a lot of things happen in our lives that can try and drag us down and tear us down, but God is more powerful. God is mightier. He is bigger. We're in His house. Let Him take over. So right now, give it all up to Him.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am.
You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Amen, church.
Amen. Well, again, welcome to Big Hill. It's really awesome to see all you here, to be able to praise and worship with you guys, to be in our Father's house, to just praise Him and thank Him for all the blessings that He gives us, and thank Him for being with us in the hard times. Quick announcement, and then we're going to get right back into worship. Last week, Children's Church, we dismissed just 4th and 5th grade. This week, we're doing 2nd through 5th, so 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So we're going to sing 2 more songs, then hopefully there'll be a slide that dismisses 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then you guys will go right back during that time, all right? And right now, we're getting ready to get back into worship. We're going to sing and have fun. This next song is probably one of my favorite songs to sing up here, if I'm being honest. It's just a really powerful song. It's really fun to sing. So please feel free, get into it, raise your hands, stomp around. If you dance a little bit like Tracy does slightly sometimes, then it'll be okay, I promise. Nobody's going to judge you. So let's have fun. Let's worship our God.
To you, this love that makes me new. Oh, may my heart receive this love that carries me from the head to the heart. You take me on a journey of letting go and getting lost in you. From the head to the heart, you take me on a journey of letting go and getting lost in you. Found your love in the open fields. More than words, more than good ideas. Oh, I found your love in the open fields. More than words, more than good ideas. Oh, I found your love in the open fields. More than words, more than good ideas. Oh, I found your love in the open fields. From the head to the heart, you take me on a journey of letting go and getting lost in you. From the head to the heart, you take me on a journey of letting go and getting lost in you. 'Cause there's no shame in looking like a fool when I give you what I can't keep. Take a hold of you. And there's no shame in looking like a fool when I give you what I can't keep. Take a hold of you. Take a hold of you, God. I take a hold of you.
is all you are. Will you meet me here again? As I walk now through the valley, let your love rise above every fear. Like the sun shaping the shadow, in my weakness your glory appears. I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Not for a minute was I forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Come, Holy Spirit, dry bones awaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Not for a minute was I forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Come, Holy Spirit, dry bones awaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are.
good morning. Well, for a little bit longer anyway. Today I'm going to talk about navigating fear and anxiety. And I have to tell you, first service this morning, it was ironic, coincidence, whatever you want to call it. But I had two little episodes that induced a lot of fear and anxiety in myself. The first one was, I'm up here waiting, Bud singing, and I had to cough. And coughing these days in public is very anxiety-inducing. And the second one is I forgot my glasses, and I have to try to read this at times. And that was, I was like, if you guys see me doing this, it was going to be rough. But one of my coping mechanisms brought me my glasses, so I'm good to go now. Again, talking about fear and anxiety. And to help you out scripturally, I'm going to be looking at the entire chapter in Acts of chapter 27. Okay, I'm going to look at the entire chapter. I'm not going to read the entire chapter. I'm going to paraphrase it in chunks. But what I really want to do is talk about specifically how anxiety functions. So if you've never, I think everyone has struggled with fear at some point, maybe afraid of the dark, the boogeyman, those kinds of things. But fear and anxiety, if you've never struggled with that, I hope to give you a glimpse of what it feels like for someone who does. I am one of those people who do. I've been on medication. I've done other things. I've struggled with panic attacks at times. And I had to make some major lifestyle changes. My fear and anxiety got so bad, they actually thought I was having a heart attack, and I got a heart cath because of it. Caused my acid reflux to be so bad and caused changes on EKG. It's a real thing, fear and anxiety. For those of you who do struggle with it, I hope to kind of offer you some hope today. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at kind of three groups of people. We're going to look at Paul, we're going to look at Julius, the centurion leader in charge of this journey, and the soldiers. So before I get any further, let me pray, and then we'll dive right in. Heavenly Father, Lord, I come to you again. Lord, I know I've already delivered this message once, but Lord, I pray for your words again. Lord, I pray for your wisdom and your guidance. Lord, that the words on the paper disappear, and all that's heard is your words. Lord, I pray for anyone here who may be struggling with fear and anxiety, Lord, and Satan uses that as a distraction today to not hear the message. And for those, Lord, who don't or struggle to understand fear and anxiety, Lord, that we can give them insight so they may help those of us who do through it. So, Lord, as always, I give all the glory and honor and thanks to you. And just, again, I'm thankful for this opportunity. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So a little background before we get into 27. So starting about chapter 22 in Acts, Paul has finished up his missionary journeys, and he's returning to Jerusalem. And he's warned before he gets there, hey, you're going to be arrested. Doesn't stop him. He goes anyway. Sure enough, he's arrested. He's held in jail for 2 years before they ever put him on this ship. So kind of give you a little background before he ever gets on this ship, okay? So the act that got him arrested, these Jews from Asia have come down and they've got the crowd stirred up, and they start to beat him with intent to kill. That's pretty anxiety-inducing, I would say. I might die. I'm probably going to be afraid. He's falsely accused. When he arrived, the other disciples had said, hey, we're hearing some rumors that you're telling people not to follow, some of the Jewish laws and customs. And Paul's like, no, that's not true at all. Actually, what do we do? And they actually come up with, hey, take part in this cleansing ceremony these other men are to show them you're still, you're not trying to get rid of some of this stuff. Again, to be falsely accused is probably pretty anxiety-inducing. Once he's arrested and he's thrown in jail, you have a time of period where there's two different Roman governors and a Jewish king. And they just, hey, we really can't find anything to turn you over to them. And we hear there's more than one plot to kill you, to ambush you. So we're not going to send you to trial, but we're also not going to let you go. We're going to use you kind of a political piece. To be in jail for 2 years and know that, you know, depending on what kind of political clout they may gain from either releasing you to get killed, you know, pretty anxiety-inducing, I would think. And now, because Paul's smart, an angel tells him, hey, God wants you to go to Rome and to talk to Caesar. And Paul, using his Roman citizenship, he's entitled this, like, hey, listen, I have the right to appeal. You guys are kind of holding me in limbo, and I have a right to speak to Caesar about my situation. And they say, yep, we're going to send you. Here's the problem. They're getting ready to sail the Mediterranean at the worst possible time of year. Now, if you don't know anything about, you know, geography and stuff, the Mediterranean obviously is not as big as the ocean, but because of where it is and how the water currents are, late fall into early spring is the worst time of year. So think about hurricane season. Hurricane season is getting ready to start here in a month or two here. And it's because of the changing of, you know, the different things in climates gets the water all turbulent, and hurricanes tend to develop more frequently. Hurricanes can develop any time of year, but this is the big time coming. Well, that's what they're going into. They're taking off right at the beginning of this. Again, pretty, you know, scary, anxiety-inducing. So let's look now at Acts 27, and we're going to look at it as a metaphor, you know, of people who struggle with fear and anxiety and kind of what's going on and how people deal with it and how they can overcome it. So let's start the first 8 verses here. We see that Paul has already ingratiated himself with this centurion leader, and he allows Paul's friends to come in and take care of his needs. Which is, you know, hey, right off the bat, you know, Paul's not making enemies. He's anxious, you know, I'm sure with all this stuff, and he's probably anxious just to get in front of Caesar and get this all settled so he can go back to doing God's will. But he's not losing focus. But as they begin their journey, they're not into their journey no time at all when the wind starts working against them. They're supposed to go to another port, but instead they have to reroute to the port of Fair Havens. Again, they're going, it's only weather-wise forecast, it's only supposed to get worse. They have to reroute there in Fair Haven. So let's pause for a second. You ever started something new career, moved to a new town? You know, you ever just, hey, I'm going to do something different. And then immediately you're met with opposition. Things don't go the way you plan, so you're forced to change the plan. For those of you who struggle with fear and anxiety, it's let it begin. It's only going to get worse from here. For those of you who don't, it's like, oh, no big deal. We're just going to reroute. We're still going to get there. We just got to take a different route. For those of us with fear and anxiety, it's not that simple. We wish it were, but it's not that simple. What we'll do instead is we'll kind of take a second and go, okay, all right. It's not how I want to plan. I'm not ready to give up. You know, if I can just make it to this point, you know, new job. Once I've been there a couple weeks, I'm sure it'll be fine. New place to live. Once I meet some people and settle in, it'll be fine. Heck, dieting. You know, once I get used to being hungry, I'll be fine. But we're never fine. We're not. Because then we start worrying about, what if I make a mistake in the meantime? Or what if I get there and it's no different? And now I've invested more time, more energy in that, and I'm going to be worse off than I was before. So anxiety builds. Pick it up in verses 9 through 12. Again, it's been rough. And I like this. Paul the prisoner, very kind of bravely, comes out and says, hey, I know it's been rough, but it's going to get worse. We shouldn't go. And I know I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he's doing. He's saying, hey, if you haven't paid attention, we already hit some trouble here. let's don't go out. It's going to be disastrous is the word he uses. It's going to be disastrous. But the owner of the ship convinces the centurion, you know what? Fairhaven's not a good place to winter. Let's go. And he's right. Again, biblically it says, Fairhaven was not a good place to winter in. But let's hang on. Let's the anxiety mind here a second, because we're going to play this what-if game. But if we stay here in Fairhaven, the worst could happen is the ship is destroyed, because the harbor's pointed the wrong way. So when the nor'easter winds come, it would blow the ship into the docks, into the land, and probably destroy it. But in wintering, they're going to take any valuables that were on the ship, anything worth anything, they're going to take off and they're going to put it in a safe place. The prisoners, the men, they're going to find safe places. So the only thing you're out is the ship. And that's a big if. So in one hand, that makes more sense. We cut our losses to a minimum, and then when the season's over, we'll get a new ship and go on out. But what if it's worse than we thought? But what if we can make it? This other place, if we can make it there, it'd be better. We start playing that what-if game, and there's good and bad. Now, you ever gotten bad advice? Someone's told you to do something and didn't work out. Maybe you didn't get it, but maybe you saw someone else get bad advice. The centurion got bad advice. I'm pretty sure the ship owner, and by the way, they had changed ships. They were hoping to find a ship that would sail the waters a little better. They had actually changed to an Alexandrian ship. They had changed ship. He's probably got some value. He doesn't care about prisoners. But these ships, these voyages are meant to be efficient. They don't, there's not 7 ships leaving per day for Rome. They've had, multiple reasons. There's 247 people on board this ship. I think it's 247. They've probably got some precious cargo as well. And it would be natural for the Romans and ship owner, I'm not worried about those prisoners. Something happens to them, well, that's their problem. But if I can get this gold or silver or whatever here, something valuable to port, that's all I care about. So he's gotten some bad advice. For people with anxiety who've witnessed that or experienced that, guess what? That makes them reluctant to take more advice in the future. Oh, so-and-so got that advice, and that didn't work out for them, so it's not going to work for me, so I'm not going to try it. Well, I've seen that person who's given this advice, and even though that advice might be sound, I've also seen that they've, done some things that aren't good, so I don't know if I can trust their advice. So I don't know what to do. Anxiety builds. Anxiety builds. Moving forward. Verses 13 through 20. Paul was right. A nor'easter, which is kind of the closest you can get to a hurricane storm-wise, rises up. And here is anxiety at its finest. Storm is raging. They have no choice. Nothing they're trying is working, and the more they fight it, honestly, the more likely they are to damage their ship. So what do? They have to pull up the lifeboat. So what would happen is if that ship started to break down, they'd jump in this little lifeboat and hopefully sail off. Be smaller, be easier to control, forget everybody else. It's now become a burden. The thing that's supposed to save them has become a burden. It's filling with water, it's dragging them down, it's pulling on the boat. They got to pull it up out of the water, put it on the boat with them. They have to take the sails down. And they just drift. They have no choice but to let this storm take them wherever it's going to take them. No choice. Imagine going out in your car, put it on cruise control, and letting go. That's kind of the equivalent of what they did. The road's a lot wider. Now throw in storm, and the road's moving up and down and curves. That's it. We We got to stop fighting it. We're going to damage the ship. We just got to see where it's going to take us. Got to see where it's going to take us. Oh, by the way, the waves and stuff, they're bringing water on board. Ship's probably, some leaks from the battering. Ship's starting to sink. Oh, we got to take some of that precious cargo and the things that were like, here, and we got to start lightening the load. We got to start pitching it. Because we got to get that ship up higher out of the water. Higher we can get it up out of the water, the safer we're going to be. When fear and anxiety are at its worst, you feel adrift, just like the boat. We feel like life has just taken us wherever it tends to go, and we have no control, and it's terrifying. We become victims, not by choice, but because we don't understand. And it's like things happen to us, not at us or for us. It's like, that lifeboat, some of the things that we count on to rescue us, become burdens. Because then we're worried about inconveniencing people around us. We're worried that we're going to let that down or disappoint, or we're going to do it wrong. We do what they did. One of the things that I didn't mention is they take ropes and tie it across the front of the ship. It's to hold the ship together. It's not going to stop the ship from taking on water. Okay? And I don't know about you, but ropes are pretty flexible. And if it takes a strong enough beating, it's still going to collapse in. It's an act of desperation. When people are at their worst with fear and anxiety, they get desperate. They try to hold on to things, really just anything, good or bad, because they know it. I know what this is, and it may not be good, but at least I know it and I understand it, and I'm going to hold tight on it. We're like the cargo sometimes. We start pitching things. I'm holding on for dear life here. I'm holding on what I know, and I'm losing my grip. So how do I get a better grip? Well, maybe I stop going to work, because that's anxiety inducing. Maybe I stop talking to people because I'm afraid that they're going to ask too much of me, and I can barely hang on to me right now. I can barely hang on to me, so I got to pitch those things overboard. Even if it was good and it was valuable, I gotta lighten up. I gotta lighten up. And another thing we have to remember is they can't see the sky night or day. That's how they know where to go. They follow the light at night with the stars and the day with the sun. And it doesn't matter if it's day or night, they can't see the sky. And it says in the Bible that they start to lose hope. People who have that cloud of anxiety and fear over them, that they can't see the light. Sometimes we say, that man can't see the forest for the trees. Well, that's true. We can't step back and appreciate what's going on because we're overwhelmed. That water coming in and the dangers of it. This is peak fear and anxiety. And then verses 22 through 26, and I'm going to really focus on this message here. Paul comes out, and he tells them, hey, I had a vision. An angel visited me last night and told me that God put all the lives on the ship in my hands. Now remember, Paul's a prisoner, and he's telling other prisoners and soldiers, hey, guys, I got this. God talked to me last night. One's pretty brave. We need to lighten the load. Hey, that guy's running his mouth. Let's throw him overboard. They didn't. Pretty brave to come out as a prisoner to say this, that my God has put your lives, you centurions who are in charge of me, you're really under me now. You're really under me. God's going to save you. No one's going to die. You're not going to lose a hair on your head. But the ship is going to be destroyed. And in particular, I want to look at verse 25. Paul says, so keep up your courage, men. For I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. He says, hey, be encouraged. Which is a lot. That's how, for those of you who don't struggle with anxiety sometimes, you mean well and you go to people who have anxiety and say, hey, listen, it's going to be fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. Please keep doing that. But it's what Paul says in the next verse that sometimes we forget. Paul says, nevertheless, we must run aground on some island. That doesn't sound like a rescue plan. Paul says, hey, everyone's going to be saved, but the ship's still going to crash. It's going to get worse before it gets better. That's hard to tell people. Paul's very real. Someone who's already struggling with something, the last thing you want to tell them is, hey, it's going to get worse. I'm sorry. I know you're struggling, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Because we don't want to discourage them. People struggling with fear and anxiety often know what needs to be done. Paul through this angel already knows, hey, we're going to be saved. He knows once we get here, we're saved, guys. We're saved. Right here, we're here. But it's all the in between Paul delivering that message and the moment they're saved is where it gets messed up. It requires sacrifice. And again, we're already struggling to hold on to things. And to give up more things is terrifying. To give up more things is terrifying. Again, crashing onto rocks during a storm doesn't sound like a plan that's going to save me. But Paul assures me, I have faith in God. And God says we're going to be saved. But the ship's going to run aground. No matter what he says, nevertheless, no matter what we do, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. 27 through 32. We're not real sure how much time has passed between Paul delivering that message and what happens on the 14th day in the storm. Not the 14th day at sea, 14th day in the storm. The crew take measurements. They do what's called sounding. It's a big long rope. It's got stones or knots tied in it. And they lower it down until it hits the bottom. They count how many knots. And they figure out the distance, how deep it is. And they take a couple of measurements. And they realize, oh, it's getting shallower. We must be approaching land. Yay, land. That's what we want. Land. That means we're going to crash. So what do? They drop 4 anchors from the back of the boat. And then some men get the lifeboat, and they're like, we're out of here. We're not going to crash. We're out. And Paul steps up again and says, whoa. Tells the centurion, if those men escape, none of us can be saved. If they get off this boat, it's not going to work out. Because the angel said, all of the men are here. Now, how did the soldiers respond? Again, Paul, the prisoner, has kind of rebuked them. And the centurion responds by cutting the ropes of the lifeboat. He says, we're going to remove that temptation. We're going to cut, lifeboat is gone. Splash in the water, it's gone. Can't escape the boat. Now, there's some things in there, again, for anxiety. Again, we don't know how much time has passed. Paul's told them they're going to be saved, but the ship's going to be destroyed. But that reaction, when it's like, it should have been good news, hey, we're getting closer to that end, we're going to be saved, the ship's going to be destroyed, but that means we're going to be saved. They drop anchors, 4 anchors from the back of the boat. If you've ever been on a boat on a windy, stormy day and dropped anchor, you know what happens. That anchor digs in. And as it's pulled, it collects more stuff. And it becomes heavier and heavier. So that little 10, 15-pound anchor on your boat now weighs 40 pounds. Or it gets stuck on a rock because it's drugged along the bottom. And that's what we do with anxiety. When we feel like we're going towards that thing that's supposed to be better, sometimes it's, I don't want to go. We dig in a little harder. And again, for those of you who don't, it's kind of like, well, that seems crazy. You're on the way to, getting it all figured out. Why would you dig in harder? Because, man, there's something coming that I can't control. That crash, I can't control it. I can't understand it. And that terrifies me. It terrifies me. They hear the message, but they can't. All they can see is the turmoil. I can tell you about the good news and the faith and hope and those kinds of things, but if all I can see is chaos, it's hard. It's hard to reconcile. And we look for a way out. Verses 33 and through 38. Paul recognizes something here in this moment. Again, 14 days in the storm. He says, hey, you need to eat. You need to eat. You've been up all day and night worried about crashing. You need to eat. Paul blesses the food, and it says they ate as much as they wanted to and were encouraged. And then they do something crazy. They throw the grain overboard. Now, Paul in this moment kind of responds to how we hope, and I think many Christians do, how we respond to someone with anxiety. He recognizes, guys, hey, you're stressed to the max. Let's pause for a minute and build you up. He actually says, you're going to need your strength to be saved. Instead of pushing them, hey guys, we got to push on. We got to push on. He says, let's eat. Be strengthened. You're going to need it to survive. And kind of on their end, they show some faith. Throw that grain overboard. There was no, hey, let's keep a little bit just in case we're here longer. Hey, you sure we don't need to keep some of this? You sure it's, got some value, or maybe we can trade it for something? But because he was willing to say, hey, take care of yourself a minute. Let's stop. And that's the hardest thing for people with fear and anxiety, is to stop and realize, hey, I'm hurting myself right now. I'm hurting myself. And we need people who are not hurting to say, hey, it's okay to take care of yourself a little bit. You need to stop, catch your breath. Again, I told you I got a heart cath because of it. I was overwhelmed. In verses 39 through 44, they see land. They see land. They don't recognize it, but they see it, and they see a beachy area, and they say, that's where we're going to try to land. So they've thrown the grain overboard, and now they're going to do some other cool things. They're sold out for God. So what do? They cut those anchors loose. Again, didn't try to pull them up. Cut them loose. We have no way of stopping the boat now. The rudder had been tied in a fixed position to help kind of navigate. They untied it, let it go. We have no way, because of the storm, now to steer the boat. We have no way to stop it and no way to steer it. And then they do the radical thing. They take their sails and turn it into the wind, so it's going to blow them even faster. They're not just going to drift there. Oh, no. They just got a little speed boost. On the outside, they've sold out. We believe you, Paul. You said that, we're going to be saved. We got to run aground. We see some ground. We're going to run aground right there on that beach. Let's go. Sounds beautiful. Paul said it would run aground, right? But the ship runs aground on a sandbar before making it to the beach. And the ship starts to fall apart. It takes a beating from the waves and rocking, hitting that sandbar. And Roman soldiers do what Roman soldiers do. They save themselves. At least that's what they come up with. They said, listen, we're going to lose the ship. We've already lost all the cargo. If these prisoners escape, we'll be the next to die. So they come up with a plan. We're going to kill the prisoners so they don't escape. We're going to kill them. Because that way, again, it's not a total loss. If we make it back to Rome, we can say it was a shipwreck. They all died in the shipwreck. They'll never know. We'll be brave heroes for surviving at sea. I'm sure that's part of their reasoning and logic. But here's the crazy part. Paul doesn't respond here. It's not Paul who steps up and gives this awesome speech. It's Julius, the centurion. At some point, very beginning, when him and Paul met, they had started to form a bond. And if you've read anything from Paul, you know Paul is consistent. Reading his letters and stuff. Paul and the centurion have formed a relationship. And Paul has influenced the centurion. We don't know after all this what happened to the centurion once he makes it to Rome. But I got to imagine that guy struggled with some real hardcore faith issues and how he treated people. And here's how I know this. Because the centurion tells his men, no. Not just say, he could have just said Paul, like, hey guys, it's a good plan. Kill all the other prisoners, but Paul, I like Paul. No, save everyone. Save everyone. And it says, he orders them, say, hey, if you can swim, jump off, swim to shore. But if you need that little extra help, use pieces of the ship that have been destroyed, that are floating, use that. And they're all saved. That's fear and anxiety. For some of you who don't struggle with it, you're those guys who can swim. You can make it. But for those of us, again, who struggle with it, we don't know how we're going to keep our head above the water. And we need someone to throw us that piece of wood through words of encouragement through being there to help us float. This is the moment of choosing faith. Remember, they didn't know what this island was. It's unfamiliar with them. They thought, we're going to crash into the beach. That's why they sold out. Oh, it's going to be easy. We're going to crash in that nice beach, be right there, and walk off. But Satan does what he does and intervenes sometimes in our lives. And what's your sandbar? And he puts, there's a sandbar there. And they could have done like a lot of people with fear and anxiety. Oh, I see, I tried it. Something bad happened. I'm going to go back the way I was. And that's where they were ready to head. But because of Christian influence on another man, he said, no. We're not going to do that. We're going to save everybody. Now, I think in this centurion's shoes, he had the most to lose than anybody. He's been put in charge. If his men mutiny, he's a failure as a general. He lost the ship, he's lost the cargo. If he loses the prisoners, he's a failure as a leader. If he listens to Paul's advice and men still die, he's a bad general. He has far more to lose than anybody. Far more to lose. But in that moment, and again, we don't know what happened to him if he converted or whatever, but he's kind of acting like a disciple. We're going to save everybody. He helped everyone through it. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But I want to point out some things that have not taken place. Okay? Everyone made it shore safely, but let's talk about some things that did not happen. There was no shaming, criticizing, lecturing, or grandstanding. Paul could have done I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. He did say, hey, I told you this would happen. But then he goes on to say, hey, but be encouraged. Be encouraged. There was no fighting between Paul and the centurion. No criticizing. Paul, when it was all over, didn't go, I told you so. I was right, you were wrong. But what did work was empathy, patience, understanding, and follow through. If you're a person who struggles with fear and anxiety, it's not an easy journey to overcome it. It takes acts of faith and courage. You're going to have setbacks. There's going to be things you can't predict. And I was talking to a lady at first service, and she talked about, listen, I understand this. When your anxiety is worse, you feel like you have to control everything. Because if you control it, you know what's going to happen. If you know what's going to happen, it reduces your anxiety, but it never works that way. But that's what happens in your mind. and there's still setbacks. But what you got to understand, you're not alone. You're not alone. And that's the hardest part to know. You're not alone. If you're a person who doesn't struggle, I ask you to step up. And stepping up, and I'd love to pick on this. To my knowledge, Facebook or social media has never rebuked a sinner and won someone for Christ. Someone's like, man, someone shared that meme, and now I just want to know Jesus. No, it causes them to get angry sometimes, or they might like, oh yeah, you're right, but it doesn't help anyone with fear and anxiety. It might have a temporary effect, but when you get relational, Paul had gotten relational with the centurion. Again, he's already won his favor earlier. He listened to him with his plan. I mean, why do you think they threw the stuff overboard? The centurion had to command it. Had to have commanded it. If you're a person who is stepping up, great, keep it up. You can also become a target and become discouraged, but don't. Those with anxiety need you. We need you. We need you to help us. We need you to remind us we're not alone. Right now, there's more depression, substance abuse, isolation, stress, and suicide among certain groups of people due to an increase in fear and anxiety. Now, that's not everybody. Some groups are way more vulnerable than others, but people feel more alone. Ask you, have you reached out? Because again, we realize empathy. I told you empathy, patience, understanding, follow through. Empathy. Paul stopped and said, hey, I know you're starving. Hey, I know you're scared. I understand where you're coming from. So I'm not screaming and yelling at you. I'm going to show you patience and tell you, hey, he didn't say when the ship was going to run aground. He didn't say how many days we're going to be saved. He said, well, we're all going to be saved. And then they carried through with parts of that plan. There were setbacks, but they followed through. And then sometimes we gotta sell out like that. We gotta cut those anchors. We gotta do those things. But back to the struggling people for a second. Maybe you're watching today, later today, whenever time of day it is. And I know a lot of things you're seeing right now are scary. I know you feel alone, and I know you feel like people don't understand where you're coming from. Again, I was going to share, I've had those struggles. I've sat right back here before and had a panic attack and had to get out at some of the height of my anxiety and panics. But you're not alone. You got to take that first step. Find someone, preferably a Christian. Because guys, we've seen that light. We talked about the dark skies. Some of your non-Christian friends are great, but they still can't offer that hope. They're still trying to hold on to the ship a lot of times. And then try to navigate using sails and anchors and stuff like that. But your Christian friends know that ship is going to do what that ship is going to do, and that's crash. The world is going to do what the world is supposed to do. Read Revelation. And it's going to get scary. You know, I'm not saying that's not a thing that this is the end of times or not. I'm just telling you the world is supposed to do that. It's what it's supposed to do. But God has challenged us to leave us here. When we become Christians, He doesn't take us immediately. He's left us here to participate, to help one another, to unite. He's put us here to be His hands and feet, and once you know me, help others know me. Through, again, empathy, patience, understanding, and follow through. Here in a second, we're going to have invitation. And invitation is a lot of times people think you come for and you just confess your sin. And yes, that's a part of it. But sometimes we, even as us Christians, we forget we've put anchors down. And as much as we say we believe in Jesus, we got something that we're dragging along the bottom that's making us, or preventing us, I should say, from really giving everything over. And so maybe that's what you need to cut your anchors. Maybe you need to lighten your load, and confess. Get that burden on your shoulders off. This is the time. And it's not just now. Listen, that invitation is, you can go out those doors 5 minutes from now at lunch, and if it hits you, find somebody. Find somebody. I'm going to be down here in a minute. Just as Jim's been, I'm going to sit. There's no scorecard. If you're not comfortable with me, I'm not going to take it personal. We've got some elders and deacons here. find one. If coming forward in a public setting because of your fear and anxiety makes it difficult for you, grab somebody afterwards and discreetly. I've baptized people after church because their fear and anxiety was so much that they were scared for people to see them. Now that's weird because you think, what's the time to celebrate? Why would they be scared? They can't help it. They've got to learn. It's baby steps. They'll get there. I've met people here, just me and one other person, baptize somebody once on a Friday night. There's no scorecard. If that's what you need to do to cut those anchors, let's do it. Let's find a way. You know, there are a lot of good Christian people in this room. There's a lot of good Christian people in this community. I just want you to find one. Maybe you're a person, again, that's not your struggle. And maybe you just need guidance in prayer. Like, how can you help others? Maybe you don't see a path that you have. Some of you have some amazing stories. You've not struggled with fear and anxiety, but you've still overcome things, and you have some amazing stories that you can encourage people, lift them up, and you don't even realize it. So I encourage you to do that. So I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to start playing. And again, you're welcome to join me at the table. We're glad to pray for you. You know, but what I do encourage you is to take this and just, gain some new perspective and how can you unite with these people and do good? Because again, once you take someone who's been through that, and what you can do together is way more than you can do apart. Let me pray. Dear Father, Lord, I know there are people in this room who at some time or another have been scared to act. Maybe as Christians, Lord, they're scared to act out of fear if someone's going to judge them on their past. Maybe they're scared to act based on their own actions. They're scared to act, Lord, because it's so foreign, this concept of hope, this concept, Lord, of heaven and being something special, Lord, when they've never felt special. Lord, we pray right now that they are encouraged. They can come forward, Lord, and if they don't come forward right now, that they are encouraged to reach out to somebody. Lord, that's the most important part. It's not the how, it's the why, to know you. To change your life, to live, and then help others know you. So I pray that's what happens. I pray that these people are encouraged. I pray that even if their person has a struggle, Lord, they take this message out and are fired up to help others. Again, united in one spirit, one body, to love one another, to encourage and tell them there's something better. It's not always going to be easy. Ships may crash, but we can be saved. So, Lord, I thank you, and it's in Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Letting go of every single dream, I lay each one down at your feet. Every moment always higher. Your plans are always good. There's not a place where I'll go. You've not already stood where you don't move the mountains. I'm needing you to move when you don't part the waters. I wish I could walk through when you don't give the answers as I cry out to you. I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answer as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you.
We're getting ready to take communion.